Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Eden Road podcast, where on today's show, we're going to be reflecting on the 1-0 defeat at Goodison Park on the weekend and also looking ahead to Derby Day down at the Gtech on Saturday. Joining me tonight, we've got a full house. Craig, how are we, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, lads. Not too bad.
Dan, we all good?
All good. We're safe, so that's all that matters.
We're safe, exactly. Callum, how you doing?
I'm back, everyone. I'm all good. How is everyone doing? I'm bringing in the energy. We're back.
Good stuff. Just before we get going, guys, remember to drop a comment down below, subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels, and also give us a follow on our socials. I was at the Eden Road on Twitter and at Eden Road Pod on Instagram. Let's start with Tweet of the Week. There were a few, to be fair, and I saw it, I think it was from Will McClatchy might have tweeted to see the kind of head loss that I saw, and I think everyone saw on the timeline over the weekend over a game that meant nothing to us before, considering we knew we were safe. Obviously, Everton were pretty much safe, but now they are mathematically safe. But I think this week's Tweet of the Week, which was quite funny, comes from at GBFC98. It says, I never want to see Toney or Collins play another minute for us again. Fucking atrocious. One bloke can't defend. The other is a complete arrogant, a word I can't say on this podcast, who is desperate for a move. Safe to say you won't impress anyone playing like that. I genuinely thought Collins had a very decent game. Toney, and we're going to get onto Toney, was, it wasn't his best by any stretch of the imagination. But I thought that was harsh on Collins. I really did.
Yeah, I think he's someone that needs minutes. In these games that don't matter so much, I think he is someone who you need to give minutes to because he's a young centre-back who has been quite solid in recent weeks, who needs consistency in game time and needs to demonstrate that he can, not have one of those performances every 4 or 5 games where he, makes a stupid mistake. And I think this is the right time now to try players like that and just give them a run in the team, to give them momentum going into next season. But obviously, regarding Toney, I'm more inclined to agree with this tweeter.
That tweeter, yes. We're going to talk about Toney because I feel like that's going to be kind of the main topic of today's episode, just because of how much backlash there was to his performance and the lineup in general. But I think just to start with, we'll go around the room, get everyone's initial reaction to the result. Fairly short episode I'm expecting today, considering just how poor the game was in general. I think that might have been, in terms of just football, the worst game I think I've seen all season. We had one kind of clear-cut opportunity, but I mean, it always happens whenever we play Everton, bar that first season when they got a couple of red cards and it was actually a decent game to watch. It's just not a great spectacle. Sean Dyche just seems to cancel out Thomas Frank quite well. And I think Frank said as much in his post-match presser. So, Craig, initial reaction to the result, mate?
It felt like I was watching England play. It was so boring and so dull. It's like watching England play on telly. It just felt like we offered nothing really at all. And we've accommodated certain player, and it's completely thrown off any kind of momentum that we had built over the last few games where he hasn't been available. But I thought it was an incredibly dull affair. One goal was going to win it. I mean, when we're getting into half time and there hasn't been a shot on target, I think that tells you all you really need to know, isn't it?
Callum, what about you, mate?
Where do I even start? Honestly, I was one of the 1800 who, with 9 days' notice, trekked up to a completely nothing fixture. Thomas Frank spoke at length about how he wanted to end the season on a high. Well, that went out the window in the game one. It was a complete shit show, to be honest with you. As you boys would say, I presume you all watched on television. Being in that ground, it was soulless. I mean, it just says it all, really. No one could give a toss. Our team looked like, half the players looked like they're either on a summer holiday on a beach or not wanting to get injured for the Euros. Okay, well, don't play then. Give a players an opportunity. Who we got Yarmolik on the bench, who I'm a big admirer on. Bring him on. Lewis Potter, again, a player is probably going to be very quiet over the summer. He's not going to be playing. He'll probably be on the beach. But anyway, give him a chance. The players who did come in, where were they? And I feel they let the fans down who went there in numbers, as I say, lastminute.com with 9 days notice, not knowing if it was a Saturday or Sunday, to watch that. It was pathetic. Pathetic.
Let's talk about the lineup before we have a quick look at the goal. And I feel like the analysis of the goal might be the only kind of game analysis that we really do. Obviously, Toney has that big chance at the start of the second half. But let's talk about the lineup. Lots of noise about the changes on Twitter. I think we were all really disappointed to see any changes really from the Luton game, considering we all said last week it was our best game of the season, with how dynamic that front three was, and how many problems they caused Luton, scoring 5 goals, and it could have been more, should have been more. To see those changes before the game, Dan, what was going through your men? Personally, I wasn't surprised to see Toney in the lineup, and nor was I kind of expecting him to play as badly as he did. But I didn't think it would have as much of an impact on the team as it ended up having. But what was your reaction when you saw the 3 changes, Dan?
I wasn't surprised. I mean, in terms of Norgard, he's our captain. I'm not surprised we want him back in there. I wouldn't have been so disappointed if he came in for Yanelt in that holding position. I think Yanelt's played a lot of games. You know, it's nothing against him, but he's pretty unremarkable. He's, 6 or 7 out of 10. I thought if you kept Damsgaard in that midfield 3 and had Norgard and Jensen, it would still have that dynamism about it. It would still be a bit exciting. So I just think it was a wrong change there. But with Ivan Toney, it's also the fact that you're pushing Wisser out onto the left. And I think when he's played there recently, he's been more ineffective. And I'd probably prefer KLP and Sharda on the left to Wisser, if I'm honest. And by moving it all around to accommodate him up front, we just didn't look as fluid at all as we did last week. And you've got to credit Everton a bit. I know their defensive record is actually one of the best in the league, but the likes of KLP, Damsgaard, you want to give them minutes at this time of the season to get them going into next season, full of confidence and momentum. And quite frankly, they deserve to start. Whereas I'm not sure Ivan Toney warranted to come straight back in, because even before his injury, he wasn't in the best form. And, we all know that his mind's elsewhere in the summer. So I just don't see the benefit to the team of, spending these last few games of him up front when it'll be his last few games for Brentford.
Craig, what about you, mate?
I said it a few times last week that I felt like we've played much better football, much more fluid football, much more free football without Ivan Toney in the team. He stepped in this weekend and we looked rigid. We looked like we was only going to play Route 1 football. The only way we was going to beat them was in the air. But when they've got 2 big players like Tarky and is it Ben Godfrey was the other? No, Branthwaite was the other. And Branthwaite in there as well. He's not going to win everything. And like Dan just said, they're a club that have got actually a really good defensive record. Jordan Pickford's kept 11 clean sheets this season, and only one more goalkeeper in David Raya has kept more clean sheets this season than him. So to try and play that style of football was never going to work. And we've thrown any consistency we had, any fluidity we had out of the window by bringing Ivan, what felt like by bringing Ivan into the team. We all know what he could do. And I think, Mike, you're right, that no one just expected him to be as crap as he really was on the weekend. And it's a disappointment because people are saying we're bringing him in to up his value. And I'm sorry, I wouldn't be paying 60 million for that performance. I wouldn't be paying 60 million for a striker of that performance. He really needs to pull his finger out to be able to get himself that move that he wants. And, well, I would say to get him that England spot, but they're increasing the squad size, aren't they? So he'll be happy enough with that because he'll get called in anyway. I think changing the team was the wrong decision. I understand bringing Norgard in, as Dan said, because he's a captain, but not for Damsgaard. Damsgaard's been fantastic recently. 4 or 5 games, he's been our best player. So I was disappointed for Damsgaard as well, more than anything. And it just felt Route 1 boring football. We tried to out-boring football, a boring football team.
What about you, Callum? What was the mood amongst the fans in the stands when the lineup came out? Was it the same as these two?
Absolutely. Yeah, completely. Especially after, the game at Luton, we've mentioned it a few times already, but that performance at Luton was such a incredible performance, how we went to such a difficult place and dominated them in the way we did. Why would you even want to consider changing a team who's gone there and done what we did, and it could have been more. And, Everton's a difficult place to go and play. And, they were there for the taking, I think, personally. They've picked up a few lucky results of late. And the momentum, we wanted to keep the momentum there. Why would you change a squad around? You don't. There's no momentum there. You're bringing in players who, quite frankly, don't deserve, personally, after the back of what we did the week before, to be starting. Ivan Toney, what has he done realistically to start for Brentford Football Club at the moment? Not much. The best performance I've seen him over the last few months was for his national team, for his country. I haven't seen him do much for Brentford at all, to be honest with you, Mike. So there was a lot of, I wouldn't say frustration probably isn't the word, but there was a lot of confused individuals as to why the changes were made after the week before, and obviously the performance warranted that as well. I think we should have made the changes a lot earlier, because Toney should have gone off that pitch. All right, he wasn't getting the service. We must talk about the service here, boys. The service he was getting was not great in the middle of the park, and quite frankly, it wasn't helping him at all. When you got a player like that who's lacking confidence, lacking form, you should be taking him off the pitch. Personally, you've got players on that bench who can go and do something. What I didn't understand, which we haven't touched upon, King Lewis Potter brought on for 5 minutes to go in the front three and then taken to left back. What's he doing? I have no idea. But hey, never mind. It's nothing gained to the club, isn't it? But still, frustration again, isn't it? Frustration.
Yeah, we'll talk about Toney in a bit more detail, and we'll talk about Damsgaard and KLP as well, because it was incredibly harsh to drop those two specifically. I think you're right, Dan. Norgard coming back in was understandable, but it should have been in place of Janelt. I think when you've got Janelt and Norgard together, I'm not sure if we have enough creative output. And I know Jensen's good and he's our kind of playmaker role, but I don't really see any of those as a natural 10. Whereas Damsgaard is probably more suited to that role. You got Janelt, who's more of an 8, Norgard's more of a 6, and Jensen's more of an 8. But Jensen's defensive work, we've spoken about it on the podcast before, is pretty poor. So if you're going to go with an 8, you may as well make it a 10, if you know what I mean. So I don't know. Well, any complaints with their goal? We knew that they were going to be dangerous from set pieces. It kind of did. It came from a corner, but we had a chance to clear it a couple of times, Dan. But I don't know. Any argument that we could have defended better? I feel like I'm not sure if it was Collins or Aya kind of flies in with a challenge and it ricochets out and falls nicely for Gay on the sort of 12-yard line. But any complaints with their goal?
Well, if you look at it back, it does come in a few times before it comes in for the goal. So maybe we could clear it better. Maybe we could have a target man up front who we could clear it to and hold it up to. In terms of the actual finish, though, it's a very good finish, and he probably put it in the only place where it's not going to get saved or blocked by one of the defenders. And you saw the effort there. There's a few players that went flying in to try and block the shot. So it's obviously a very good finish. Because anywhere else, I do believe it would have been blocked. But yeah, it was one of those games where there wasn't much in it, and we missed our chance, and they took theirs. So I don't have too many complaints about the goal in particular.
Yeah, no, I don't either. Let's talk about. I feel like that's the only thing from the game specifically. There wasn't really too many events. Toney obviously missed that chance, but let's talk about Toney because we spoke about him last week. I think we all agreed we kind of need to look forward to next season in terms of who we're going to play and how it's going to be without him next year. But I feel like with the Euros coming up, even though the squad has been extended by another 3 players, so he's pretty much not guaranteed to go, but I think he will go, considering I think Southgate likes him. And also Thomas Frank likes him. I feel like the way Thomas Frank speaks about Toney, it's almost like he refuses to acknowledge all the stuff that the fans acknowledge, which you have to understand a little bit. It's his player at the end of the day, and he's probably more not a realist, but he's less inclined to feel the same way that us fans do about his player. But I think he said in his post-match that Ivan Toney is our best attacker, and if he's fit, I'm going to play him. But he's also probably got one eye on the Euros as well. He doesn't want to just kind of not play him so that he doesn't even have a look in. But it was such a poor performance from him, typified by his kind of squandering of that chance where Jensen plays a lovely ball through either side of Pickford and it goes in, but he just kind of hits it straight at him. It's a good save, but I think the standards that Ivan Toney set over the last couple of seasons, you expect him to be burying those. But yeah, thoughts on his performance, Craig? It was just, it was just poor. Like I didn't really understand. I knew that he was probably going to start if he was fit, but you mentioned it there, Callum. He played really well for England. He played really well against United. But apart from that, for someone who talked about how much he was going to prove people wrong in his time off, about people, I think, and to be fair, no one was saying that he was going to come back and be bad. It was almost like he did all these interviews and he was like, I've got to prove the doubters wrong. Like, no one was saying that he's bad, but for someone that was speaking so confidently and putting so much this pressure on himself, he's not really doing himself any favours, Craig.
He's done more interviews than he scored goals recently.
Well said.
Look, just to touch on what you were saying, Thomas Frank's obviously looking at him from a purely professional point of view, whereas we, as fans, have that emotional investment within the football club, and we want the results. We want players to play for Brentford because they want to play for Brentford. Now, that doesn't happen much in football. There's no loyalty in football. We know that that's the case. But when you look at players like Reguilon, for example, he's someone that in the last few games has looked like he's enjoyed playing football for our football club. The way he was celebrated with the fans at Luton, I thought it was fantastic. The way KLP was celebrating with the fans at Luton as well. And even Pinnock as well. First game back, gets a goal, celebrates in front of the fans like that. I just feel like he's biding his time now, Ivan, until he can just get out of the club. And I feel like he's causing atmosphere amongst the fans because he's dividing opinion amongst the fans. I think he's stinking the place out. I don't think he should have or deserves a place in these last 3 games that we've got. And I would rather we played some enjoyable, exciting, attacking football without him in the squad than sacrifice, and enjoyment and sacrifice the enjoyment of these last few games. If it means that we sell him for 50 million instead of 60 million, to me, from a personal point of view, and this is a fan's point of view, I couldn't care less. I would give away the £10 million just to be able to go to Brentford and enjoy it and not see him stinking out the place from what it looks like from an outside point of view. Obviously, the players seem to get along with him and Thomas Frank loves him. But I have zero emotional investment on what he does between now onwards. If he played no more games for Brentford, I couldn't care. And if he leaves in the summer, I don't care. Just give us the money and get him gone. I don't care what he does anymore. I've lost all interest.
Do you boys still think that it's without question that he's going to get this big money move? Do you think what he's said and how he's played in the last few months since he's come back, do you think that would be putting off any of these top 6 clubs in the Prem? Because I feel like if he's going to go, it would probably, for example, I don't see him going to West Ham, even though I feel like I've seen some rumours, but I feel like West Ham for him, it's obviously an upward step. And me and Callum talked about this before about whether going from Brentford to West Ham is going up or if it's sideways. I think it's up, but I don't know. I feel like the way he's been going on and the amount of goals he's scored last season, he should probably be going to a top 6 club. But do you think that what he said in the last few months and how he's played in the last few months has negated that possibility to anyone?
I think so. Yeah. I think because we've already replaced him, and this is what we do as a club, we kind of get the replacement in early. So I think there'll be an element of this dragging out until probably the first few games of next season. And I think we'll want to kind of push him to get a move somewhere, to get some profit out of him, unless he's going to turn around all of a sudden and say he wants a new contract. And I think he may at first try and hold out for one of those top teams. But if you're an Arsenal, for example, I think there's probably better options out there for them, also younger options. So I think as the summer goes on, as we get into next season, he then might settle, I think, at maybe a bit of a lower price for maybe not West Ham, but a similar stature club. But it's obviously not what he wants. But I can see it happening. I think it depends how he does at the Euros. If he goes to the Euros and does well, then it might change. But I don't think he'll play much, even if he does go.
What do you reckon, Callum?
I think he's off to Newcastle personally.
You reckon?
I think 100%. I think Isak's in top form at the moment. He will attract a lot of big clubs around Europe, maybe Saudi as well. And I just think he's got unfinished business at Newcastle, and he kind of fits, I think personally, the kind of football that they play. And I just think he'll want to go back to where things kind of started for him. And I think Newcastle will pay the money for him. So there's been rumours in the past, whether they've been factually true or not, I don't know. But I think Ivan Toney will go to Newcastle, personally.
I saw an article earlier linking Brian Mbumo to Newcastle. I don't know if you boys saw that on Twitter, but that was interesting. I think what I can say for certain, just to see, when I do the tweet of the week stuff, when I'm just going through the kind of full-time thoughts of everyone on Twitter, the consensus is now firmly, I think it's gone against Toney, to be honest. I don't think there's obviously a few people out there that still think, for whatever reason, Brentford fans' reactions to some of the interviews are maybe slightly petty. I think someone in our comments even said once that I was going on too much about some of the stuff that he said in the interviews. But I feel like when he's dropping the performances that he's been dropping now, I think you could probably say 60-70% of Brentford fans wouldn't care less if he played again for Brentford, and we just want the money and go. And by the way, if we did only get 40 million or 50 million or however much, we're still making a shit ton of profit from what we paid for him. And it's still gonna just up those books more than they already are. And I don't know if you boys have seen, but Igor Thiago's having a little bit of a remontada in the Belgian league. I think he's scored 3 goals in his last 3 or something like that.
There we go. No need to worry. No need to worry.
I think he's the high. I saw that he's the highest scoring Brazilian in the world right now, which is some doing.
Did they get through to the Conference League semis as well, or did they get knocked out? Bruges.
I don't know actually. I want to say
Craig, you should know this. Come on.
It will be this week if they're through.
Go on, Craig. I saw you wanted to say something.
No, I was going to say
they are through. They are through.
They are through. They're away at Fiorentina. Yeah. What I wanted to say was, even in the games in which he hasn't scored recently, if you have a look at the stats, he's been heavily involved in the game itself. Sorry, I was trying to read the results at the same time. He's been heavily involved in the games themselves, where he's influencing, the outcome of the match by being a presence, a big physical presence across that front line, in the same way that Ivan was when he had some sort of investment in the team. So, and he finally followed Brentford back. Igor Thiago did, after he unfollowed the club and deleted his tweet. He finally followed the club back. Now we're safe.
I think I saw a tweet that Antonio Nusa followed the club back again as well. I don't know if he stopped following the club at some point, but that would be funny if we ended up taking him too. Let's talk about, I feel like we've touched on Damsgaard already. It was just incredibly harsh considering how good he's been, especially the last 2 games when no one was good against Sheffield United, but he was, and Luton where he was at it. Even when he came on against Everton, he was still sort of one of the busier players looking to make stuff happen. So 100%, and as well to take him out of the team when he's had the run of games that he's had, considering that this was Frank's signing, I just thought it was bizarre. Like Thomas Frank was, they've said before that he was kind of the outlier. Normally they make signings off the back of the data and the statistics, but I'm pretty sure that Mikael Damsgaard was one that Frank wanted to bring in. So to rest him after 2 really good performances was odd, very odd. But Callum, we haven't mentioned KL. Well, I think you have briefly mentioned KLP, but his exclusion, especially after we said last week, I think we're cursed. We said last week that all KLP needs is a run of games in his preferred position. He gets dropped and then he gets pushed back to his to left wing back in his unfavoured position. It's just not a good Saturday for KLP. But Callum, what were your thoughts? Go on, mate.
Frustration, Mike. I'm actually honestly, I don't understand what more he can do personally to get a string of performances and starting performances in this team in his favoured position. And there is, I said it a few weeks ago. I think Thomas Frank is slightly, he's using him in the wrong fashion. There is a player in there that we should be utilising a lot more, and is getting movement on that now. A lot more players, a lot more individuals are saying that on social media as well. And I can certainly see him being one of those players who turns around at the end of the season and says, I fancy a new challenge here, to be honest with you. What does he have to do to get a string of performances? A starting place in that front three. He's done nothing wrong. Fair enough. If he put in a bad performance last week against Luton, I would say, okay, fair enough. But he put in a fantastic performance. He should have scored more than one goal. There was a good couple of opportunities there for him as well. He linked up well with Reguilon. He created opportunities for Wissa. You don't drop a player like that. I just think that's disrespectful to him, really, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think he may go in the summer, Mike. You've got a player there who will want to play with the age he is. He's played in the England under-21s as well previously. He should be playing more often, but it's frustrating. It really is frustrating. And then, particularly, as I said earlier, to move him back to left back after 3 or 4 minutes. Oh, flipping heck. I was having kittens when that happened. I thought, flipping heck, like, Toney's still on this pitch, and you've taken Reguilon off and put him back to left back. Even he looked frustrated. It would be off camera, but he was up front in the top three, and then you could just see him slowly walking back to the left back position, and I could tell a player in there, he wasn't happy, and too right personally.
You do make a good point as well about the fact that I don't think he's going to leave. I don't think he's going to leave. I think we signed him too soon. But we do, going into next season, we will have a lot of forwards, especially if we don't shift Brian, which I don't think I don't know. With Brian, it's difficult. I don't know whether he's going to sign a new contract. I'd imagine the recruitment staff and everyone at Brentford is trying to make him do that. But you do make a good point. Next season, we're going to have a lot of forwards. So game time for someone like KLP, we don't know how much he's going to get with Kevin Schade and Brian Mbeumo and Wissa and KLP and Thiago. It's going to be difficult. Any other stuff that we wanted to talk about the Everton game before, we just talk about the fact that we're now safe, and obviously we're going to do Callum's player ratings considering that he's back. Anyone else want to mention anything about the Everton game? It's a bit of a non-game, really, wasn't it?
Just want to mention the fans that did go. Like Callum said, it was quite a last-minute change. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there, as I say, but just credit to everyone that did go. It's a long way to go on a Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening when I'm pretty sure there was no trains back or something stupid like that. But credit to everyone that did go. Did a good job.
It was a good atmosphere. Honestly, that was so much more fun than going to watch us at Liverpool. There was no tourists in that away end. There was no cameras 24/7 putting it on the players. A proper old-fashioned ground. Honestly, I'm going to miss that place after next season. Honestly, it was a good atmosphere as well, considering we took a reduced allocation. Fair play to the club for reducing the ticket prices as well. I fully endorse that. I fully respect the club for doing that. We just missed that performance. That was it. Great performance from the fans. They were my man of the match on Saturday. So well done to all for travelling. Good
100%.
job, all.
100%. It was the same at Villa when we had a reduced allocation. It was proper good atmosphere there as well. But boys, we are now, before we're going to got Callum's player ratings. We've got Fulham to look ahead to as well. But we are now safe from relegation, Dan. We found out before the game. Luton lost to Wolves. We have another season in the Premier League. It'll be our 4th season in the Premier League. How does it feel knowing that we're safe? Obviously, we've been talking about relegation. What feels like the whole season? Well, not the whole season. I think the first time I'm trying to remember what the first time was when we kind of fully talked about it as a genuine possibility. But how did it feel to get that confirmation, Dan, when Luton lost?
It's a relief. I mean, I hadn't been really thinking about it this week because as soon as we had beaten Luton, I would have been absolutely shocked if we were close to going down from there, to be honest. So it was more last week. After the game last week, I felt, we can just enjoy the last few. Of course, it's a shame we can't keep that unbeaten run going and keep the momentum going into next season, because I thought given our fixtures, we'd have a chance to do that. But ultimately, we've achieved, what we needed to achieve this season. And, next year we go again. I think every year we've got to look at it. The first objective, stay up, and then we'll see where we are after a certain amount of games and see what we can achieve. It's obviously been the most challenging season of the three, probably the most injuries of the three. So in a way, the fact that we have survived so comfortably with 3 or 4 games left, we're 10 points clear, is testament, I think, to how we've overcome those challenges. Because there's some teams down the bottom, if they had the injuries that we had, they would struggle perhaps a little bit more than us. So yeah, it's just relief, really.
Yeah, 100%. I think it is testament. And I've said this on opposition podcast before. We've criticised Thomas Frank's decision making at points this season, but I feel like, and it's easy to say with retrospect, but I feel like he has done the best with a shit hand that he's been dealt this season in terms of injuries. Like to be safe with games to go, and if you put into context the players that we've had out, I think he's done all right. What about you, Craig? How did it feel knowing that we are now safe? We've got another season in the Premier League.
I think that actually played more of an influence on the game than we actually think. Going into that game, thinking the possibility that we win, we're safe, to then going into it being we're safe, it took 2 gears off the team and it just slowed everything down. I was worried. I'm not going to lie. We went on a massive run of not picking up results. Like last season when we was crap, we would at least get a draw. We would grind out results last season, which is what kept us in that European running. And we finished 2 points off of it last season. Keep everyone fit, and we've got a real possibility of doing it again next season. I'm fully confident that the club can invest correctly over the summer, that we can push on again for a top 10 European finish. Confidence is key. I just hope we don't have the injury problems that we had this year. You've muted yourself, mate.
Sorry, there was a bit of a buzzing in the background that I keep hearing, but I can sort that out in the edit. What about you, Callum? What was your reaction to the news that we were safe? We're just going around getting the reactions.
Very ecstatic. Honestly, I've been worried for a while, especially after the Burnley result and in the fashion we lost. And people started to lose their heads ever so slightly after that game. And the frustration was being turned on Thomas Frank after that performance. Very happy. It's been a very frustrating season in lots of parts. Obviously, you mentioned about the injury part. It's been really frustrating with the injuries, but what I want is just, I don't want any of these nonsense pre-season tours coming up now. I just want, a decent pre-season, no injuries, go into the new season, start off how we started off this season, and let's go and try and get us high up that league, which we are very capable. We have seen with Brentford Football Club how high we can go. So, and I think we can do better. I think we can. We've got the development there. We've got everything there. We've proved last season what we can do. Why can't we go and get into those European places? Honestly, I mean, of course, you look at what it's done to have, the teams, with those extra games. But I think what a fantastic achievement it'd be for Brentford Football Club. I'm dreaming now, boys. But anyway, going off topic. Very happy. Very happy. I can enjoy the last few games, hopefully with some good performances. See some players who maybe not have played. I'd like to see Baptiste. I mean, he's obviously not going to be around the club next season. I'd like to see someone like him come in. A few of the youngsters get an opportunity, rotate the squad. Trevitt, absolutely. Was he on the bench on Saturday, or was it the week before? He was definitely in and around the team.
He was definitely on the bench for the Sheffield United game.
Yeah. So, give these players an opportunity. Like, what is there to play for? We can't go up really now, other than one place, and we can't go down anywhere. So, It's let's give some players an opportunity. And by the way, I must say it was good to see. Whether we've seen the end of Tchaikovsky on the bench, I don't know, but we saw an unfamiliar keeper on the bench as well, which was that Icelandic goalkeeper, I think, wasn't there,
Yeah.
or something like that. So
Yeah.
good to see him on there. So hopefully, yeah, good. Very happy, boys. Another season in the Premier League. A very happy Callum right now. So yes, good job, Brentford.
I would like to see Kim before the end of the season. I feel like he's not made an appearance for the club yet, and I think he's quite rated in terms of the hierarchy at the club. So I'd definitely like to see him get an appearance before the end of the season. Considering he was quite like a touted prospect. I remember when we signed him, there was a few clubs that were looking at him. So he would definitely be one. Trevitt, we mentioned, I think he had a great loan spell at Exeter this season. Anyone else that we'd want to see? I looked at the B team lineup the other day, and Ethan Brearley is a funny one because I feel we have seen him, haven't we? And I think he made an appearance in a cup game maybe at the start of the season. He's been an ever present in that B team this season, and obviously massively rated by the Rochdale fans. So it'd be great to see him get some minutes under his belt. But there's definitely a few now that we're safe, like you say, Callum. Can't really go up too many places. We know that we're not going down. It would be good to see some of the youngsters who maybe have been shining in the B team get some minutes for the first team.
Yeah, agreed. The only thing I would say, are they? You've obviously named your 25. Is it? They have to be in that 25-man squad, haven't they, or something like that from the Premier League? I think, isn't it, to be in a match day team? I mean, if one individual is, can imagine how bonkers everyone would go. Romeo Beckham, just saying. You know, can imagine.
I do have a question. I do have a question. Maybe this is one actually for like a pre-season chat before the season starts. It's just based on what you said, Callum, about the possibility of us actually pushing it next year, and I wouldn't say sneaking in because we're more than good enough to pick up points and grind games out to get us over the line and do it. At our squad size, we don't have the squad size to be able to compete at a high level in both the Premier League and a European competition. We just don't have a big enough squad to do it. Would you, now I know the answer to this in my head, and maybe this is a conversation for a pre-season thing, but would you take finishing in a European space to finish 18th the season after?
Finish 18th as in go down?
As in we finish in Europe, but we don't have a big enough squad to be able to compete in both Europe and the Premier League, but we play in Europe but get relegated that season.
No.
Not a chance.
No. I would take Europe and 17th and Europe 110%.
Right, Europe and 17th. We stay up by the skin of our teeth.
100%. Yeah. Taking that all day long. 100%.
And win it.
Mate, look at what West Ham fans had. Like if we had what West Ham fans had, a good run, and they ended up winning the whole thing. But even just playing in Europe with the biggest fever dream ever for a club the size of Brentford's, considering we were in League Two not too long ago, it would be absolutely mental. So yes, your answer. I wouldn't say if we went down, then no. But if we finished 17th and we stayed up, imagine that we get a good run in Europe and we stay up on the last day somehow. That'd be incredible. Absolutely incredible. Callum, should we do your player ratings, mate? Have you got
absolutely? This could be very interesting.
Go for it, mate. I'll let you take it, and then we'll have a little chat about Derby Day on Saturday.
Right, Flecken, I actually think he played very well. Actually, I'm going to give him a 6. Ayer, I'm giving him a 5. Collins, I'm giving him a 7 because yes, I do agree, boys. I think he did very well. Pinnock, I don't think he did anything wrong. I'm going to give him a 6. Reguilon, I'm giving him a 6. Jensen, I'm giving him a 5. Norgard, I'm giving him a 5. Janel, I'm giving him a 4. Wisser, I'm giving him a 4. Toney, I'm giving a 3, and he's lucky to even get that. And then Bramo, I'm giving a 4. And then off the bench, I'm giving. Do you want the bench? Because I don't.
Yeah. Do the bench.
Roslev, well, he wasn't really involved, but I'll give him a 5. Damsgaard, I thought he put some tiny little passes in there. I'm giving him a 6. Sharded looked decent when he came on. I'm giving him a 6. Yarmolenko a 6. Potter, I'm going to give a 6. And if Onyeka got off the bench, I'll give him a 10.
I thought you'd given up on Onyeka, Callum.
until he scored the other week, so I was a very happy man. So it was Craig's dad came and saw me at Luton. I honestly, he was a very happy man. I tell you, I said yes, Onyeka, brilliant, and he hasn't played since. I can't believe it.
He wanted to finish on a high. That was all. He's not going to play again this season now.
He's not going to play again for Brentford Football Club, I don't think. But anyway, never mind. Hey ho, never mind.
Let's move on to Fulham. Big one on Saturday, boys. I said last week. I tweeted last week that I was ready to finish above Fulham. Had we beaten Everton last weekend with Fulham's draw against Palace, I think we might have actually been in. We would have had a chance to at least finish above Fulham. If we take points off them next week, the dream is. It's not really a dream, but the ambition is still there. But Dan, regardless of all that, it would be good to do the double over Fulham in what has been our worst season in the Premier League to date. So how are you feeling ahead of it?
It would be good, and I think we've got a massive chance. I think winning 3-0 at their place early in the season was one of our best performances this season. I think their away record is a lot worse than their home record, I think. So we've got to win the place we want if we're going to do the double over them. They've got to come to us. We should now start hopefully playing without any pressure on us. Obviously, it could go one or two ways, but you'd hope for a derby game they'd be up for it and they can play without pressure on us. I don't see why we can't get at them. I don't think, they're the sort of team, even if you took away the fact they're our local rivals, we'd fancy ourselves against. So I don't see why we can't get something out of it. I don't see why we can't win. And you'd hope the team would be more up for it.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Craig? How are you feeling ahead of it?
I just want us to win. I just want us to win it. I think that there'll be actually a slightly more relaxed atmosphere at the Gtech than what we've had recently in derby games. Like last season when we beat them 3-2, I thought it was a good atmosphere as well as away this year where we beat them 3-0. If we had not been safe going into this game, then I think it would have been quite edgy, bit nervous. People wouldn't really want the game to be going on because we don't want Fulham to be, involved in what could have been a very, very tight end to the season. So I think that we're gonna have a bit of it's going to be a very weird derby. I think it's going to be quiet. I don't think the atmosphere is going to be that great. I think it's going to be quiet because it's the most nothing derby we've had. We normally play them near the start of the season or the middle of the season, but this feels like just a nothing derby, unfortunately, which I hate to say. I do hate to say.
You don't remember that one in the Championship when Sam Scorners scored that fantastic goal? Do you not remember that one, Craig? The little chip over the keeper.
Yeah.
What a day.
Scott Hogan scored twice as well that game.
There we go. I rest my case. No, honestly, I would hate to lose to Fulham. Honestly, I know they'll want to get us back for what happened at the start of the season. Going to their grounds, the Craven Cottage, beating them in such fashion as what we did, with ease as well. I think they'll be well up for beating us on Saturday, and but we can't let that happen. Let's go and get those 3 points. Let's go and do the double over them. Only the second time this season we would have done a double over a team. So let's get the bragging rights of Fulham and let's go and enjoy it. Let's go and enjoy the 3 points.
Let's for people that are watching on YouTube, you'll see that I've sort of started building a lineup. I don't think are we all happy with that defense. I feel like the changes that we want will probably be in that sort of front six area. But from back to front, Flecken, Ayer, Collins, Pinnock, Reguilon, I feel like that kind of speaks for itself. Who do you boys like to see in midfield? Does Norgard keep his place? We definitely want to see Damsgaard. So add him
Danish trio. I want a Danish trio.
Yeah, that's what I would go with as well.
Norgard, Damsgaard, Jensen.
Yeah, we'll give Jannet a rest.
Yeah.
Whether he does this remains to be seen. And then the front three. What do we think, boys, in terms of the front three? I'm gonna go on.
And Mbumo, Wissa, KLP.
Does he drop Ivan Toney though? Do you really think?
No, he won't. But this is what I would go with.
All right, we'll go with that. Oh, it's just difficult because it is frustrating. It is very frustrating, but we don't think that he's going to drop Ivan Toney, and he's almost like now that he's kind of set his stall and he said, if Ivan's available and he's fit, he's our best attacker, and we're going to play him. But I wonder there's going to be audible groans around the ground if he plays as badly as he did against Everton in the derby game, and if we go on to lose it, oh God, I feel like we had the conversation a few weeks back about when the fans would kind of have enough with Toney's antics, especially if he's not performing on the pitch. If we end up losing the derby and Toney misses a bunch of chances, or he plays as badly as he did against Everton, Craig, I feel like it could get toxic with him very fast.
I don't think, not at home. I don't think it would happen at home. But I feel like if he has a stinker and plays 90 minutes, the Brentford Twitter will kick off. And we will be able to have a full montage of tweet of the weeks just giving him grief if he plays 90 minutes and drops a stinker, which I'm all for creating, by the way, if that happens, because I think it'd be really funny. But I don't think it'll become toxic. I just think that he'll get grief, he'll get called out, and he'll be put in the limelight for another shit game, unfortunately.
Yeah, because are you confident, Dan, ahead of the game?
Yeah, I think the options even we have off the bench now. Obviously, Morpay wasn't available last week, but you've got him, you've got Sharda. You'd have probably Lewis Potter, assuming he'll start with Toney and move Wisser out to the left. So you've got a few midfielders like Yarmoliuk, possibly Damsgaard if he's on the bench as well. So I think we have plenty of options now. I think it's quite exciting if we get the right combination of players together. And I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be confident going into the game, because our best team, I think, can easily match and is probably better than Fulham's best team.
Yeah, 100%. I think that'd be a good place to round things off. We want to hear from you in the comments, though. How disappointed were you with the lineup against Everton? Would you like to see more? Who would you like to see more of now we've secured our Premier League status? How confident are you heading into Derby Day? Let us know. Also, let me know, and I put a feeler around in the group chat earlier. Do you guys want a Fulham preview? I don't know if it's incredibly petty of me to say that I didn't really fancy getting anyone from a Fulham podcast on, but do let me know in the comments if you want a Fulham preview. I'm sure I can find someone who's willing to talk about Fulham season. But just from a personal perspective, I just didn't think that I'd need to do that. But do let me know in the comments if you think that's... What are you laughing at, Callum? What do you reckon?
I think you should get it on for entertainment purposes. But yeah, it's... I'll leave that with you, Mike. I'll leave that with you.
Let me know in the comments. The Eden Red Podcast will be back next week to reflect on what is hopefully 3 points against Fulham. In the meantime, remember to drop a comment down below with your thoughts ahead of Derby Day. Subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels, and also give us a follow on our socials. That's at the Eden Road on Twitter and at Eden Road Pod on Instagram. Gents, it's been an absolute pleasure. Let's hope for 3 points on Saturday.
Up the bees.
Peace.